Live now. And set up the record. Great. Hello YouTube, if there is anyone out there. So, today we've got Philip Matthew with us from the Grip Strip podcast. We're going to start the main podcast in just a few moments' time. Feel free to get involved, comment on the live stream if you want to, and we'll happily try and get you involved in the podcast. So how have you been, Phil?
I've been busy. Thanks for having me on, Tom. Thank you for coming on the GSP last week.
My voice was so husky on that when I listened to it back, and I didn't realise just how husky it was.
Well, hey, that's the thing. Early in the morning, you go and have the sound like you sound like freaking what's it called? Like what is it? 007 or something. You have a 007 thing at 2 a.m. Where I'm just got back from work literally, and after we're done with this, I have to do prep for the GSP and work. So I'm just glad to go and spend a little bit of time in between that, going and talking about Baba, as Lead, if he likes to say, and Honda Grand Prix of Alabama, which saw Alex Hello Palou win his first IndyCar race for cheap Ganassi, no less. So
cool. Well, I think we're all set up then, so we'll just jump straight into the podcast. So here we go. I love this title sequence.
No.
Best moment in history right there.
I didn't hear it though.
Oh, okay.
If I heard
That's a good one too.
Yeah. Oh, so this is for when you do it on live. Okay.
Yeah.
So when I see the recording, I can see all of this and I'll be able to comment.
Welcome to the Monkeyseat. It's a 2-pod week for you, and this special bonus episode, we review the opening race of the IndyCar season. We're an independent podcast bringing you reviews, previews, interviews, and our own controversial views from all your favourite motorsport disciplines. We're on the socials at Monkeyseat Pod and our website monkeyseatpod.com. You can tell us how wrong we are by leaving us a review on your podcast player of choice, and we will read it out no matter how bad it is. Just make sure you give us 5 stars though, or we'll cry. And now you may notice that we're one voice short today. My partner in crime, Carl, is conspicuous by his absence, but to replace him for today, we have on the show a man who has forgotten more about motorsport than most of us will ever know. From the Grip Strip podcast, Mr. Philip Matthew. Hi.
Hello. Good evening, Tom. Good evening, everybody, people of Earth, people of jolly old England, everywhere that's listening here on the Monkeyseat. And thanks for having me on.
Thank you. Very, very much appreciate it. For those of you who I was on the Grip Strip podcast last week at 4 a.m. was a little husky and tired, so apologies for the vocal quality of my voice on that particular one. But no, that's great fun, and what we did learn from that was that we were very, very wrong in all of our opinions of what was going to happen in the opening race of the season. Yeah. I think a quick rundown of the race. It was early stages was O'Ward led from pole, and a big lap 1 pile-up caused by championship hopeful Joseph Newgarden, who brought out the caution. When we restarted, all seemed to be going to plan for Aaron McLaren, with O'Ward keeping Rossi behind, but varying strategies throughout the field meant that the 2 stoppers had a distinct race advantage, and a win for Ganassi would have been predicted by most, but the win for the most unlikely Ganassi car, Alex Palou, upset all the pre-race predictions, with Palou fighting off a late charge from Will Power to net his first series win. That is not what any of us expected, was it?
No, I mean, Alex Palou has been considered a prospect or a top line driver. I mean, he came over here to Dale Coyne with the Honda. I forget what the Team Go support last year to run the full season. He took very well to the ovals, and he had his moments on road courses. Rosenquist's move to Arrow Spam was kind of unexpected. But then when you considering how much that Ganassi was into him for many years, and then basically one win or two, whatever he had, one win last year, and then he just decided to bail. And that opened up an opportunity since they're that's a fully funded car to get Alex Palou, who's a very young, talented driver, not Formula One young, but he's young. And he went out there and whooped them, really. I mean, it was literally him and Pato O'Ward the whole entire day. There really wasn't anything else that went on in that race. There only three other drivers led laps, and that was really only because of pit sequences and all that. That's the first win for the 10 car. I mean, yeah, Rosenquist had one win. I think Tony Kanaan had two wins, nothing great. They haven't had a driver there with Scott Dixon that has pushed him since Dario Franchitti's unfortunate end of his career. And I think Alex Palou is the kind of guy, if he stays here, that could be that push, that person that could keep. I mean, it's not like Scott Dixon's going anywhere, but I think that could get the team going and keep them much more competitive on a weekly basis, having two cars that can stand up to the Penske Armada or Andretti Autosport or other teams that are coming along.
Yeah, I mean, it was exceptional performance from Palou. I mean, I know it's early days, but do you think this is the start of a title challenge, or is it just the exception that proved the rule today?
I mean, we'll see what happens at St. Pete. I mean, there's a lot. What really could determine this is this first couple of months of the season. Just like last year when Scott Dixon went off and won all those races, he basically gave himself the gap to hold off Joseph Newgarden. If Alex Palou can go and get another fast six at St. Pete, he ran relatively well there last year, I believe, off the top. Keep a points lead. The way these points are in IndyCar, it's so weird. If you just stay up there and you accumulate top fives, it's hard to get to make up big deficits without just winning and getting poles and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. So, I mean, he could go and not even make it out of the first round of qualifying and have to come from the back, the way this field is. But he could also run a fast six, have a good run, and we'd be talking about him going to the doubleheader at Texas, which is a one groove racetrack and a dump. And that would be, and they're good there at Texas Ganassi. I mean, there really isn't a bad track for Ganassi, but that could kind of, I don't think that I can't say for sure that he's going to challenge, but he has been a challenger in Super Formula. He gave, I'm forgetting the guy's name. I think he drives for the Virgin team, or he drives for one of the teams in Formula E now, Nick Cassidy, who was the one non-Japanese driver there, and he's won championships. He ran Japanese GT. He gave him a challenge. So, I mean, he's a good driver, and Ganassi, he says Ganassi likes winners. Well, he has one now, and he's going to be a challenger for sure. Will it be the whole season? Can't say off the top yet.
So the opening lap crash then. So do you think that was Newgarden getting spooked, or was he tagged, or did he just drop it?
I mean, that you go over that crest over there in turn 3, and it's going to make the rear end light. And so it's possible cold tires was an issue. I mean, Joseph Newgarden has won 3 races there. He's one of the best drivers, period. He almost won that title last year. That's one of his best racetracks, closest thing to home. For him to make that kind of mistake is rare. Back in his early days, in his Sarah Fisher days, when he first came into the IndyCar series, he would make those mistakes because he pushed. I really don't know what precipitated that. It was shocking.
It just looked like it didn't look like anyone touched him, but I mean, from my perspective, it just looked like he just made a mistake, which is just very, very unlike him.
Yeah, but and it's something that, you know, especially with how competitive this season is going to be and how deep this field is, to give up that many points is huge. And it's an unfortunate, you know, mistake for Joseph Newgarden at a track that he's great at.
He was in my fantasy for the.
Yeah, I mean, we were all. I mean, I I just go chalk based on performance, recent performance, and I went with Joseph Newgarden, and of course got blown up. It's kind of like my Daytona 500 picks all got blown up on lap 15. But the fact is, I think he got loose light on the right rear corner, spun out, and then after that, he really wasn't in control of any of that stuff that came after that, unfortunately, because you block the middle of a track and it's a narrow circuit. So he was kind of screwed at that point.
Well, my prediction for the top three were all facing backwards or in a hedge in the first lap. It was it was Rosenquist, it was Newgarden, and Colton Herta were my predictions for the top three. So yeah, I was not enjoying that. I mean, I was lucky that I did my four picks for the season were quite high up there. But this is my first attempt at IndyCar Prediction League, so I think I'm doing okay. I'm in a league of two, of which I'm currently top. So let's see how that goes on. But yeah, I mean, with that crash, I mean, Ryan Hunter-Reay obviously out on the first lap, not the first time, probably won't be the last. Very very lucky with the aero screen, yeah, I mean, it really just proves the argument about the aero screen. There is no argument now, is there? You see that, and you see the wheel comes into shot. Whether it would have hit his helmet or not, we can't really be sure, but it was definitely in that area, and if it's in that area, you need something there.
Yeah, I think the Bottas-Russell incident at Imola and then this incident at Barber reiterated the fact and reinforced the fact that you need to have a screen or a halo or whatever, some sort of head surround. People who want to be against it because it doesn't look like an open wheel car, well, you know what? You're not driving the car. If you want to go and drive some makeshift quarter midget or midget at the Chili Bowl and put your life on the line, then God bless you. But if you go and wreck, you're going to die. It's necessary, and we've lost too many people. We've lost Justin Wilson. We've lost I'm forgetting his name. Dan Weldon, of course. And we the driver in Formula One, for the Marussia
Bianchi, we lost.
Yeah, Jules Bianchi as well. That's enough. Three is too many.
And Hubert in F2 as well. I mean, I know it's not.
And of course, Antoine Hubert as well. Yeah. So I mean, the reality is the halo works, the aero screen works. Whether you like it or it's aesthetically pleasing, it really doesn't matter to me. I don't really mind it. My life, the thing is, if you love racing, then you don't really care. You should care that your drivers are healthy and are driving. If you don't care about racing and you're there for wrecks, then there's no real help for you with that. And so, I mean, I'm glad for Ryan Hunter-Reay. He's a father of three. He's married, beautiful wife and all those kids. And, that could have been serious. And he's been around for a long time in this sport, going basically 15, 16 years in the Indy cars. So, I mean, he's seen a lot of good, a lot of bad. So for him and for Rosenquist, of course, who I think climbed over a car too, like that, it was a good thing that was there. I mean, there was wrecks. I think there was a wreck at Iowa last year. And that halo was a big thing. That having that aero screen was a big deal. I think with Colton Herta. There's been wrecks in both Formula One and IndyCar here recently that if you want to question it, you're incorrect. And, you will continue to be incorrect, because I'd rather see the great drivers be healthy and be able to go back to their families.
Absolutely. I mean, I think the heart rate obviously does go up a little bit when you see a big crash, and once you're aware that everyone's okay and everyone's healthy and happy, then you can then look deeper into that crash and appreciate the safety. I mean, it's fascinating to see how these cars come apart and how they protect the drivers. But again, they're there to protect the drivers, and to see them the way they come apart is fascinating, and from a safety point of view, and it is definitely a sight. It's definitely a sight that interests people's mind. But you don't want to. It's not a blood sport. We don't want to be seeing people getting hurt. So the aero screen, absolutely. I would like to see some kind of mandated cooling system for the aeroscreen, because I think the great thing, the thing that makes the aeroscreen perfect for IndyCar is the fact that it deflects debris as well. And when
Yeah.
you're racing on ovals and you've got the chance of catch fencing and big wrecks and debris flying everywhere, it's a lot more likely for the aeroscreen to be much more effective than the halo in those situations. So I think it's right for IndyCar. I think the mandated cooling, which is then equal across everyone, so that everyone has to run it, and it's part of the car. I think that's the next step, which I think they need to look towards.
I think that's coming with the next car, once with the new design in a couple of years. I figure that will be all incorporated, because obviously no power steering, then they have no AC either. So it basically becomes a boiler room in there, and you're stuffed in there. And it's been difficult at some of these races when it's been much hotter. So it's something IndyCar is very focused on. I know that safety and driver care is at the forefront of how they run the sport, which is why, for all the good, all the bad that people may talk about it, they care about their drivers. And there's a reason why we have such a strong field.
Absolutely. And let's hope it stays that way. I mean, as a McLaren fan myself, I was going for a no award victory today, Sunday rather. Didn't get it. Quite disappointed. But so do you think this was a race lost by McLaren or won by Ganassi?
It was a race won by Alex Palou and Ganassi. Award was the fastest car basically the whole entire race. Taylor Kyle, his strategist, decided on 3 stops. Award was able to get back to the lead, I think, twice, but he didn't have enough tire, and then by the last segment, there was no chance. It's the McLaren spam team. They've had their moments, and with Pato Award, I've been a mark for Pato Award for a few years now, because of a podcast that 2 of my friends, Frank and Missy, the Indy Sports Car podcast, they brought him on many years ago when he was in Indy Pro 2000s, like in the Road to Indy, and they got on with him, and he's been one of their guys, and he's just salt of the earth, like chill, laid back. But when you put him behind the wheel of a race car, he's an absolute freak. And one of these days he is going to win, and once he wins, he's going to win a lot, because he's insanely fast. He should have won Road America last year, probably Iowa, one of the races, Iowa. They left a few on the table. They're not the best. They're still the Schmidt, Peterson, whatever. They're not known for finishing, even when Hinch was around. Hinch isn't the greatest driver, but the fact of the matter is they weren't known for finishing races off when under that iteration. So now you've got all these extra pieces and parts. They have a really strong driver lineup. They had a strong driver lineup last year. They didn't support Oliver Askew, but now you have Rosenquist, who's a veteran. We'll see how they respond. Award finished second at St. Pete a few months ago. So I wouldn't be surprised if he goes out there and wins another pole or gets in the Fast 6. But that's something where being able to finish these races is so difficult, and that's why it makes Scott Dixon all the more amazing. That's why, to compete against those big 3 teams, the Ganassi, Penske, Andretti, you need to be able to finish the job. And if Arrow McLaren wants to be there, they're going to have to tighten things up. Because Pato can drive as fast as he wants, but if you're having to give him a 30-second gap every single time, he's good, but like it isn't Indy Lights anymore. Like you're competing against top guys here.
Yeah, it's kind of the opposite to Road America. I think it was last year, wasn't it, where he was the one leading and was being chased down by Rosenquist, actually, wasn't it? And so it's kind of the reverse, but with the same outcome, unfortunately. Will Power had a great race. I thought he was pushing him right to the end, obviously on the same strategy as Palou, but Palou didn't buckle under pressure. He's and Will Power, often regarded as one of the fastest men ever to race a race car. Stayed right with him until the end, and I think it's a good result for Power as well, because he's got this habit of starting slowly, and it's
Yeah.
good to get a good haul of points on the board, 40 odd points on the board already, just to get him going. Second in the championship, he's ahead of Dixon, he's ahead of O'Ward, so it's a good start for him. I think he'd be gutted he didn't get the win, but good start for him all round.
Yeah, for William, he said he wanted a podium. He's been notorious, as you said, with not starting fast, and Dixon for many years has been that way too, over his illustrious career. But for Power, he wasn't the. I think the two was the car that was the best Penske car out of the four. Pagano was nowhere all weekend, and then of course Scotty. We're going to talk in a little bit, but Power was kind of there. He's won there, of course. He's won virtually everywhere, but but he wasn't as fast as he usually was. But he made the two stop work, and because of that, he put himself in position. But he already spoke of. He said it in his interview. He was like, "Yeah, Pelot's first stint was what basically ended it. He had no chance at that point because of how fast he went." And I mean, for him to go and give credit, it kind of tells you how good of a run Alex Pelot had. But for Power, don't know how long his time will be if Penske's going to keep four cars. So it kind of looked like he may have been out the door last year too, and he was wrecking people. So we'll see how that goes. We'll see how this season kind of goes along, and for him, it's a good start for sure.
And before McLaren came back into the sport, the driver I followed was Alex Rossi. So he now falls just behind O'Ward and Rhodes and Quist for me, because I am incredibly biased. But Rossi seemed to be doing really well at the start. He was right up behind O'Ward. O'Ward looked to be getting a little bit loose at times and really struggling to keep the car in the right direction. But then the second half of the race, he just seemed to disappear. What do you think happened with Rossi there? Because I can't put my finger on exactly why he just kind of disappeared. I can't remember where he finished in the end, but was he was kind of 7th or 8th or somewhere, or 6th, 9th?
Yeah, he ended up finishing 9th.
Yeah.
And he was behind the likes of Green Rehal and Marcus Ericsson and Bourdais and VK. So a lot of them went with 2 versus 3. I think he was on the 3 stopper, and on top of that, I think he also in the middle of the race lost handle on the primaries. I might be mixing up what his tire sequence was, if he was on primaries to start and he had to go on reds, or it was the other way around. I think the middle stint was where he lost a lot of time. He was calling his strategist Rob Edwards and saying he had nothing on pace, and I don't know if it was him or I think it was O'Ward that said it felt like he was like a turtle. I mean, when you're having to make it, and when you're trying to make a number, it's like, oh, you're trying to go hard, but then you have to save kind of it. For Rossi, at least he finished. Considering how bad the start of his 2020 season was.
Terrible last year, wasn't it?
The fact he got a top 10, he's ahead of Newgarden in points. I think he'll take it. Of course, it's Alexander Rossi. Everyone's like, oh, it's championship or bust. I mean, no, it isn't. He's not going anywhere. He's Andretti's number 1 driver. He's going to be there for a long time. There's no reason for anybody to worry about it. Will he win a championship? I believe he will. Is it going to be this year? Who knows? But you have to, you're mitigating runs. Having a run like that is not horrible. Finishing outside of the top 20 would have been a problem, which is where everybody was involved in that first lap incident basically finished. So in that sense, take it for what it is. Go to St. Pete. Him and Colton Herta had the 2 best cars last October, last October. They both crashed. Or I know Colton Herta crashed, I think, in the S's coming out of the first section. And I think Alexander Rossi also crashed out of the lead. So the notion is they both had fast cars there. It's a circuit where Andretti has been very good at over the years, along with Penske. We'll see what Alexander Rossi has to bring to the table this weekend at St. Pete.
Yeah, so looking at the rookie class, then the oldest rookie class in history, something like over 100 years between the three rookies. So how do we think? I think the on the road, Grosjean was the furthest up, shortly followed by McLaughlin, and then Johnson was at the back with your Chilton and Kellett's. So how do we think they did? My opinion, I think Grosjean will be very happy with his performance. I think McLaughlin probably not so much, and Johnson's just going to be glad he's not last, to be honest. Anything to add on them?
For Jimmy, his presence is really what it's about. They're showing him like they showed Danica Patrick in NASCAR. I think it's a little bit much. As much as I respect Jimmy Johnson for all the great things he's done for like nearly 30 years in motorsports, or whatever, it's 30 plus years in motorsports. I mean, he's a brand new driver to open wheel racing into Indy cars. It's not going to look good for a long time. It's probably going to take until the middle of next year before he looks the part. He's in a good car. He has some great people around him. He has the right perspective. There are people he can beat on this grid on a weekly basis. He's not going to be competing for wins yet. I honestly don't think he ever is going to compete for a win, but that's fine. But, McLaughlin, he's looking at the big picture, and they expect big things from him. He's a really talented guy. I probably was not the best for him, but I think he'll figure it out over time this year. I think he'll be good by the second half of the year. He'll be fine. Romain Grosjean, when he's on, it from his Formula One days. When he's on, he's really, really good. He had a great qualifying run on Saturday to get that Dale Coyne car in seventh or whatever, and just missing the fast six. But then strategy, whatever, tires, trying to get used to this first time in an IndyCar race. It didn't work out as well for him. He'll have his moments this year, but it's not going to be. I don't think he's at the level of a Bourdais, because Bourdais came here and he was like shot out of a cannon. When he started in IndyCar back in 2003, and he just has there's a different sense here, and I think that as much as anything is what's going to help Romain progress, because it's looser, it's a lot more friendlier. He actually is competitive for the first time in a few years, minus the fact that he drives for a rent-a-wreck owner and Rick Ware. He's gonna have opportunities this year at some of these racetracks, especially Nashville, when they run that'll be a brand new racetrack, so that'll be an opportunity for all the new guys to try to get an advantage over some of the veterans.
Yeah. So looking at the weekend as a whole, then as your first appearance on the Monkeyseat, I'm going to give you the honour of choosing this. Normally we debate it. We pick a driver of the day and a dick of the day. As it's your first appearance, I'm going to give you carte blanche on the whole thing, and you can decide driver of the day and who is the dick of the day and why.
Well, dick of the day, that kind of fits my podcast too. I might have to go and ask for permission on that. We might see about that. We'll talk about that later. But for driver,
feel free, my friend.
Driver of the day is Palou all the way, because nobody picked him. He was like 50-1 in whatever or something. I swear he was like 50-1 somewhere, and then he ended up winning the dang race. Or I might be thinking about something, but like Palou's a really good young talent, but nobody expected him to go out there and just whoop everybody. That was an epic performance. He's only the third driver in the history of Ganassi to go and win in their first race. They showed that graphic. It was Michael Andretti at Australia in '94 in the first race for Reynard after he came back from Formula One. And it was the late Dan Weldon in 2006 at Homestead after winning the IndyCar championship in the Indy 500. So that's a pretty illustrious, that's some pretty high company to be with there, and to win for a guy like Ganassi who's been at this for decades. He's definitely the driver of the day. In terms of dick of the day, I mean, that's a hard one because there wasn't. I mean, there are douche. Like I could go into like douchey guys or whatever based on my own personal opinion, but
Yeah,
that's
it's
not
more based on the
what
weekend.
happened.
So
What happened on the weekend? I mean, just in general, the performance and what they did. I mean, it's kind of, I guess it could be slander, it could be scandalous or slander, but I don't think it's dick of the day as much as what the heck was going on all day with the mayor of Hingetown. I'm not, look, we could go with Joseph Newgarden. I mean, it's a mistake. Everyone makes mistakes, even
yeah,
the greatest drivers have, and he's one of the best. I don't think that makes him a dick. I
no.
think some of the people piling in when they kind of had time to react, that's the dick move. I think not being relevant whatsoever, being a lap down and being in the same realm as Dalton Kellett and Jimmy Johnson is and Max Chilton is kind of a problem. But then I thought about it in also offline and thinking about that performance, and I'm like, he's basically driving Marco's car. It's a combination of Marco's team and then whatever the remnants of the the team that Colton Herta had, and then whatever they probably hodgepodge 3 teams together, and they're not very good. So that hopefully for Hinch's sake, that turns around at St. Pete, a track he's won at before. If they don't turn it around, it's a very tough start to this season. A lot of races. You're going to have 2 ovals coming up in a couple of weeks, 2 races at Texas, which is a disaster area. Then you have Indy Road Course and, of course, the Indianapolis 500, and that's going to be a deep field. So you have a lot of racing early on in this season. If you build a hole, it's going to be very hard to get out of it unless you are an elite talent like Joseph Newgarden, and he almost did that. But that's me. I don't know about you, Tom, but that's
Yeah,
my.
no, it's sometimes it's very difficult to pick a dick of the day when you've got people that are all just just doing a great job. And what I do find with the IndyCar field is everyone just seems to be friends with each other. It's more like they're like a fraternity pack that are going racing at the weekend. As you know, it's. I think it was Grosjean. I heard an interview with Grosjean saying that he was really surprised that he's just walking around the paddock and just talking to drivers. It's just something that you don't get in other motorsports.
Yeah.
So
And
that's
Kevin Magnussen has said the same thing too since he moved over to IMSA now with Ganassi, and how much the camaraderie difference is. Because I mean, I think probably his dad has told him that too, but it's such a big change.
yeah. I think I found in the past with trying to award the dick of the day in IndyCar races. Quite often I go to the coverage because
Yeah.
like you just like you're watching the race and then all of a sudden you got yet another ad break. Then you come back and you see a picture of Colton Herta playing the bass guitar for 20 minutes. It's just like I don't care about this. Put me back on the racing. So
Yeah, the
quite
dick of the
frequently
day
it's
should be the coverage because I think they had a commercial every 5 laps.
yeah
I swear it was at least 5 to 7 laps they'd have a commercial,
yeah.
and that's not good. But then who knows what they're going to do with their coverage after this year because they will be off of NBC in the United States. So we'll see where they're going to go with that.
Yeah, it's. I think it's just on. I mean, obviously, we're quite lucky over here. It just gets on the F1 channel over here, so we've got it
Mm-hmm.
all. It's uninterrupted, but you don't get any commentary when it goes to ad break. But so we're quite lucky in that sense. But yeah, I'm sure I heard some of that. Is it just streaming over there for you? Can you not get it on telly a lot of the time?
No, we have it on our proper whatever regular channel. It was on the regular channel NBC here, and then most of the other races will be on the what is the Sports Network, and then another cable channel later in
Okay.
the year. They have a lot of the practice and qualifying live streamed on their premium service they call Peacock, like their
Yeah, that's
logo,
the
the
one I'd
NBC
heard.
logo.
I thought it was
Yeah.
all on there, but no. Okay, at least you're getting the races then, so that's
Yeah,
something.
they
But
they do the races live, and the qualifying they tape delay, which is whatever. I mean, the point is you go on social media, everyone knows what the heck the qualifying is, so at that point it doesn't matter. If you just like it and you want to see it, it's one thing, but practice and qualifying is all, I think, streaming for the most part outside of the Indianapolis 500, which they'll show some live and then the rest of it will be streamed live anyway. But hey, you take what you can get. At least we have a series and we're racing, and we have a regular, proper setup. It's not NASCAR. You actually have practice, you have qualifying, you have a warm up and a race. Like every other freaking racing series that exists in the world.
Yeah. No, I've watched one NASCAR race, and I didn't watch all of it. And I think it had a Chinese commentary because it was a very dodgy stream I was watching it on. And that's the one race I've watched. I couldn't figure out what was going on. I
It
mean, you
was
can't.
I've watched it for 29 years now, all of these motorsports for the most part. And the more I watch NASCAR, the more it's like these days, it's more like WWE, which, and then with all the other gimmicks they got going on, I don't bother. They had the NASCAR race right with the IndyCar race. I sat there and watched the whole IndyCar race. And then I went and changed it over and watched the rest of the NASCAR race because I'm like, I don't care. Nothing's going to happen of great significance, and nothing did. So, I mean, and I missed 2/3 of the race. With IndyCar, you kind of have to be engaged. I mean, in the end, it kind of was straightforward, but there's strategy, there's, pace advantages, tire strategies. There's different things going on, and the field is deep enough where you can qualify in the back, not by mistake or whatever, like something happened, and you could actually have the pace to run up front. So
Yeah, I've,
we'll
I've
see
noticed
about that.
that, like from when I've been watching stuff before. It's when I've done my race reviews, I'm just like, oh, so Dixon was in 18th and somehow finished third. Just don't know how that happened, but
Oh, that's Dixon. That's
yeah, yeah,
that's that's like that's like Lewis, or thinking about guys of the past in Formula One, pulling it out of their butt. Like that's the kind of stuff when you're in that level, when you're at that GOAT level, that's what it is.
yeah. I think
Dixon can qualify. Dale Earnhardt, the late great Dale Earnhardt, used to qualify bad every race or every other race, and then he'd come from the back and they'd show him coming all the way to the front. Like that's just kind of the thing. When you're that good, it doesn't really matter where you qualify.
yeah. So looking ahead, then we've got St. Pete coming up next. Normally the season opener, closed the season last year, and then it's the second race this year. What can we expect going into St. Pete's?
St. Pete's tough. It's a long race, 100-lap race there, very difficult on drivers and endurance. Of course, going to Barber last week, so they'll be still sore and everything from that, but it's going to be an endurance test as much as anything, tire management and being able to make passes. There's really only 2 passing zones at that track. It's turn 1, where Rossi and Robbie Wickens ran over each other at the end a couple of years ago, and handed the race to Bourdais. Then there's over at Dan Weldon Drive, I think it's turn 10 or whatever it is. That's the only other passing zone because a lot of tire deg happens there and a lot of marbles build up. So it takes away a lot of passing areas. Qualifying, like Formula One, qualifying is going to be very difficult, and it's going to play a key role in at least how the early portion of the race takes shape, because if you get up front, you can kind of dictate your pace or kind of make a number to try and run this race out. I think it is a 3-stopper off the top based on how many laps they're going to run. And cautions do happen there because of so many short runoffs and walls, and it's very tight. So that will kind of mess with the strategy. It'll be a little bit more stop start, I would think, than Barber was, because it was an open road circuit. But we'll see what happens with that.
Great. Well, that's another good one to look forward to, and then we've got a double header in Texas the week after as well. I think, haven't we? Is that one a double header?
Yeah, it's a double header for. What's it called? Roger Penske got what's his face to go. It's the week after. Look at that. So they'll have a night race on Saturday night, and then they'll have basically an afternoon race on Sunday, which they'll do 575 kilometers, whatever that works, over 2 days, and hopefully they don't demolish race cars because they have to go to the Indy within 3 weeks after that. They're going run on the oval, but hopefully I will see what they do with the if they're going to do push to pass, or if some of these other changes that they've done, because the aero package on the ovals has not been great in recent years. And then of course Texas, being one of the worst racetracks ever made, will also help in making it a one groove shit show. And then you'll also have the fact that they have the grip strip on the outside, which when you put a Firestone tire in it, Alex Palou, I think, hit that last year, or it was Rena's VK, I think. One of them, or Takuma Sato tried to run it, demolished his car, and couldn't even race. And I think Rena's VK and Alex Palou got into it like early in the race last year, which was the first race of the season last June. And then they wrecked like 5 laps into the race or something, some craziness. So it's literally a one groove racetrack. It's going to be very hard to pass there. And it's not a great racetrack, so it is what it is.
But then they're just leading into the 500 as well. So looking forward to that one. But Guy, when you mentioned the grip strip there, so let's talk about your grip strip. And that's not a euphemism. That's talking about your podcast. So so you run the Grip Strip podcast. How long is it you've been doing that for? And what made you start that?
Yeah, for me, I mean, I'd been a part of podcasts for going back to like 2013, and it was mostly NASCAR related stuff. And then I know that like NASCAR is fine and all, but there's so many people who do that. I'm like, I know all these other series, and I love all these series really much, in a lot of ways more than NASCAR at this point. And, pandemic happened, being out of work, and I got to talking with Josh Huffine, my co-host, who we've been friends for a while on social media through NASCAR pages and stuff, but I knew he knew about other series. And then we talked about sim racing one day on my whatever work out to be. I think I forget what my other show was called off the top now, but I had a show just solo, and Frank, who, like I mentioned from the Indy Sports Car podcast, he's like, I listened to your show, you definitely need a co-host. And that was the one thing he said. And I'm like, okay. And then Josh and I had a great show talking about, sim racing, because everyone was doing the sim deal, whether it was NASCAR, IndyCar, Formula One, of course. And from there, the Grip Strip podcast came along, I think in April, May of last year. So we're getting on a year here and 50 plus episodes. And it's been a fun ride. We go and talk about all kinds of racing. We talk about IndyCar, Formula One. We talk about NASCAR, and we go and do the roundup and cover other series quickly, like MotoGP or Formula E, Extreme E, like some of this stuff that you guys cover in more detail. We also give it at least a hit, at least if it has some semblance of relevancy. We try to hit it in some way, shape, or form.
I think I listened to one of your episodes once, and you were talking about the Super Bowl at one point as well.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's the other thing, because both of us are big American football fans. He's from Jacksonville, Florida area, so he's a Jacksonville Jaguars fan. For people in England, of course, you guys have had Jacksonville there many times. I'm a San Francisco 49ers diehard. And so we talk football, we talk fantasy sports too, because we're in the league together. I run a fantasy football league, so we were in the league last year, and he finished second, and I finished behind him. Bad luck, but whatever. So we talk about a whole lot of stuff. So, and it depends on how functional I am, depending on how many beverages I've had. But we do it in the evening, so it's fun. It's a respite from all the craziness that is life, and just talking about this thing that we love, which is motorsports and sports in general, and trying to get away from a lot of the negativity that exists in the world.
Yeah, I think it's there's so many podcasts have just come out of the blue in the last sort of year. Obviously, I was looking at starting a podcast for a little while, and then, as you say, the pandemic happened, and then we decided to start the Monkeyseat, myself and Carl, and then we reach out to podcasters like yourself and people like George on the Grid Talk as well, and Jared, and a great bunch of people over there, and a lot of the people that we speak to say, "Oh, how long have you been going for?" And they say, "Oh, yeah, we started, in sort of April, May time." And it's just there's just so many that have just come up, and it's a great kind of community feel as well. And there's lots of different options to listen to, and then if one person's opinion's annoying you can just skip to someone else's, and you can drop in and out of various podcasts. I mean, I'm fortunate, I get to listen to a lot of podcasts because of my job. I've got headphones in 6 hours a day, so I can get a lot of listening in, so I do kind of capture quite a lot of podcasts, so that's great. But yeah, no, it's really enjoyable. It's a lot of work, but it's really enjoyable, and
absolutely.
And I love collaborating with people like yourself and saying Grid Talk and a few others that we have done and will continue to do in the future. So I think
here.
we'll probably leave it there. So this was supposed to be a bite-sized podcast to just kind of see us through to next week. So I just want to say thanks again for coming on. And where can people find the Grip Strip podcast?
You can find us on, we're on Podbean, of course, that's where we upload, but then Amazon Music, what is it? This is great. I'm a great promoter of my own podcast. You gotta love it. When you go and forget all this stuff. So yeah, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, Podbean, Pandora. We're on basically anywhere you can find podcasts. Grip Strip Podcast is there. We're at Grip Strip Pod on Twitter, and you can follow me at Philip G. Matthew and my co-host Josh Huffine at JP Huffine. So JPHUFFINE. And that's where you can follow us there. And he, his, what is it? The sim thing, the sim racing deal. They have his, Twitch. His handle is usailor2. He runs iRacing, Indy cars, and NASCAR. So, and he's really good. He's really good at it. So, if you ever wanted to go and catch a stream with that, he's a really good one to watch, and he's mad chill. So, unless somebody cuts him off, and then he actually does get angry, which is kind of funny. So, thank you for having me on, Tom.
No problem. It's been a pleasure. And now I've actually remembered to share my audio with Zoom now. So the only thing left to do now is to play the exit music, because you didn't get the entry music. So Thank you very much, and we'll see you all next week. And that's it.
Yeah.
Bye, YouTube. Oh dear.